Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Get ready to expand your intuition, connect to God, experience deeper relationships, open your heart and feel more joy, and finally end the chaos in your life. Are you ready to get unstuck and more? You ask, how do I do it? The answer is simple. The time has come for peak spiritual fitness. It starts right now on Spirituality Bootcamp with your host, Kristen White.
Welcome everyone, and we're back for week 5 of Spirituality Bootcamp, and I'm your host, Kristen White, and we created this series here on VividLife Radio as part of our launch for the VividLife University. That's right, the founder of VividLife, Shane Travis, and myself, Kristen White, put our heads together, and we thought, you know what, there has to be a way where we can take these incredible thought leaders, these transformational inspirational forces, these people that come on to Vivid Life on a regular basis, and take it one step further, where we can actually work with you directly and teach you step by step how to manifest and create transformation and move into that greater realm of possibility in your life. And so that's why we created Vivid Life University, and we're launching it this summer, and this is our first series. It's called Spirituality Bootcamp, the 7 Principles of Spiritual Practice. And whether you've been with us since the beginning or you're just now joining us, I am so excited because I know that you are going to feel the energy, feel the force of possibility that comes from just basic practice, basic spiritual practice. So today, my guest is joining us from UK, and he's been up late watching the Olympics. Actually, I'm just kidding about that, but he's joining us. It's 1 o'clock in the morning there, and it's Hemal Radia, and he is going to give us such a treat today. He is the author of Find You and Find Everything, The Secrets of the Law of Attraction. And Hemal is also a world-renowned expert on manifesting and the law of attraction, and he's been described as a super coach. Okay, I'm so excited to have a super coach on the show with us. And he's going to be coaching you directly on the topic of visualization. So, Hemal, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. It's great to be here.
I know. I'm so glad you're here. You know, we're on the principle of visualization, but, you know, you and I talked before the show even started, and we said, you know what, let's talk about not just visualization, but also manifesting and prosperity and energy. So we're going to go into some of the really fun, juicy stuff. But let's start just for a minute with visualization. What is visualization?
It's really interesting because I guess the implication of the word is it's visual, and what I would say is it doesn't necessarily have to be visual, because oftentimes some people will say, oh, but I can't see pictures or I can't visualize something, and I'll say, well, it's okay, because if we're talking about manifesting and law of attraction and, like we said just now, prosperity, my view is it's really about getting a sense of something. So visualization is really a tool to adjusting your energy or your vibration rather than the be-all and the end-all. So don't worry if you can't see specific pictures, so don't worry about that. Sometimes some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic, so it's okay. It's more getting a sense. Generally, I would say, you know, when you're wanting to manifest something like prosperity, it's the feeling that you get about it. So visualization is just a tool, just like affirmation, just like vision boards, whatever else. It's another tool to adjusting your energy and your vibration, and the way you know that is by how you feel. So what is visualization? It's really, shall we say, a process or a tool to adjust your energy. It's about, I would say it's about a way of getting a sense of what you want to attract into your life. So if it's prosperity, you can see yourself with prosperity. How does it feel to see yourself with that prosperity? And if we're saying that it doesn't have to be visual, it could be something that's an auditory experience for you. But generally, you'll get a feeling, basically. It'll start to feel very real. You might start to feel excited. You might start to feel tingly. So I would say follow that, and then just make the visual images or whatever sense that you get as a stimulus for that.
You know, Hemal, I know inside my meditation I love to use visualization, and I especially like using symbols, because I think that the universe really recognizes symbols, and it's almost like it sends out a message beyond our structure of our mind, And so oftentimes when I was visualizing prosperity, okay, I would start with like a visualization where I would see, my body filling with light, like magnetic energy. And then I would see that light going out to the universe, and then I would see it bringing back, abundance in the form of a symbol. It could be like, gold or diamonds or just anything that energetically represented prosperity, but not necessarily something specific, because what I found for myself was that whatever I thought I wanted, it was too small. There was always something that was bigger available, and that the symbols helped have the realm of expansiveness larger.
Yeah. Also, when using symbology, it's very useful because oftentimes, we say symbology, but if you think about it, even language is symbology. It's just what we define as symbology.
Right.
So, but symbology is powerful in the sense that oftentimes. It bypasses certain conscious blocks we may have because it's more instinctive, it's more maybe primal, but more instinctive in the sense that it's working on an experiential level than, let's say someone said they want to attract $10,000 by the end of the week, for example, whereas if they work with the symbology, that may be a useful way for them to warm up around the issue of prosperity. It stops certain blocks coming up. Like if we said to them to attract $10,000 by the end of the week, they may have certain beliefs or blocks that may come up about it, like how will I do that, or how will I attract that amount of money, etc., etc. But with symbology, because it's quite abstract, sometimes we bypass certain blocks that we have. So symbology is a great way to start something and then working with the symbology. And that's oftentimes the brain communicates, or the universe communicates to us through symbology, and vice versa as well. So it can be useful in that respect as well.
So what are some of your favorite symbols when you're teaching visualization and imagery to, I know you have thousands of students around the globe. Is there any kind of, I'm not trying to put you on the spot because I know it's late, but is there a little visualization exercise that maybe you could even take us through right now?
Staying up at 1 a.m. doing a radio show around the world is a sign of prosperity. That's a place to start.
We're clap happy tonight.
Yes. What I would say to the individual is really, I would say, to the listener listening to this, I would say, what are your representations of or some symbols of prosperity? Because it's very individual. We have universal ones. It could be gold coins. It could be the sun. It could be whatever else. I remember when I started out in this field about 17 or so years ago, there was this healer and this spiritual lady, and she would imagine gold coins falling down all around her, etc., etc. So it's all kind of unique. What I would say is, what is it that makes you feel prosperous? What is it that makes you feel rich? What colors does it involve? Are there sounds? Are there textures? What are the experiences? And so, is it lavish fabrics? Is it textures? What is it? Are there certain types of colors? So I would focus more around that. It could be someone likes to be bathed in yellow or gold or whatever else it might be. So, it could, so again, it doesn't have to be even specific images. It could be just colors or sensual experiences. So what is it that makes you feel prosperous and rich? And just take it gently and at a step at a time. What I would say with manifesting and with law of attraction is sometimes what people try and do is they try and jump too quickly. So they might say they may have a goal for $1 million, and it might be that they're not quite ready yet energetically or in terms of their beliefs. So just starting off, even like with symbology, start off with things that are gentle and easy. Just thinking of money, or thinking of prosperity, or thinking of gold, or thinking of the color yellow or gold. Even just if that makes you feel good, start off with that. Then get more and more specific. Sometimes people get very specific very quickly on what they want, and their beliefs aren't quite ready. It's really more about if you imagine an energetic stream, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to put your toe into the stream with gentle things that you resonate with. So rather than having a specific goal, you could start with more of an abstract goal or a symbolic goal or something symbolic. And as you start to align to the feeling or the energy or the vibration of prosperity, you're then getting into the stream. And then when you're in the stream, when you're in your flow or in your alignment or however you want to describe it, you're then more easily able to feel from that place. Oftentimes when we try to attract our goals, we start the process from the outside of our goals. We're trying to get into that place. So by thinking of specific little gentle things that put you into your flow, and you start to feel prosperity more and more. So you might start off with certain visualizations or certain experiences, and you start to feel it. So once you get into that groove, you can then get more and more specific because you're then in your flow, and it's more powerful from that place. So I would say start off, whatever you do, start off gently, and in an easy way. Don't try and rush or jump into it too quickly. Let the stream or let the law of attraction carry you, because if you're starting to feel a certain way and you don't contradict it or you don't block it or you don't fear it and you just allow it, you just let it continue, the law of attraction says you'll attract more of the same. So if you continue, it's like when we fall in love. When we genuinely fall in love and we don't have doubts or fears or whatever, it just expands. It gets bigger and bigger, and we start to think about this person, and we feel it more and more, and it grows and it grows and grows and grows. It's only when we get scared about it or have other experiences that actually negate that or block it. But when we're in our flow, when we just allow ourselves to feel love, law of attraction means we start to think of them in this way, and then we start to think of them that way. And what will it be when this happens, or when we see him or her? So that it's just a very natural experience to get excited and to be in your flow. So we're actually very much all used to it. And so with what you want, whether it's prosperity or whatever else, just let the flow take you. Let the stream carry you, basically. Let it take you, and just don't block it, but just let it build and build, just like falling in love, and let it take you where you need to go.
You know, you raised such a valid point, and I'm sure that our listeners will appreciate this, is the fact that there's our time and that there's divine time. And oftentimes that doesn't line up. And I know this just from my own journey, and I'm sure you have many stories about this, where it's like, you know, we're doing our law of attraction, and we're like, okay, I want $10,000, or I want a new relationship, or I want a new car, or I want my book to be published, and I want it by, you know, the first Monday in the month of August. And then when it doesn't happen, we get discouraged because we think, oh, I've just proved that it doesn't work. Right. And that's probably the quickest way in visualization or any of these principles to short-circuit being in the flow like you just talked about.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting concept you just mentioned there, which is a question I often get asked, which is how does time come into attracting what we want, in terms of how do we influence the timing of it? And my view is actually there is no concept of time. You attract by vibration or by your energy. So just because you set a deadline for having something done by Friday or whatever, it's actually not the fact that you set it as Friday, but the fact that you think of it as Friday and how that impacts and affects your energy is how it affects you attracting it. So it's more so the energy. So time can be a tool in your alignment of your energy. That's it. But it's actually not the word, the date, or the time that's actually doing the attracting. It's actually the energy that you have about what you want. So how quickly something comes into your life is based on how you allow it or enable it in terms of your own alignment to it. That's actually what it comes down to, and that's it. So when you think of a specific time period or a specific time frame, it's really just because when you think of something by next Friday or by the end of the month, and the way that you define it and how it impacts your perception of it and your energy and your vibration about it, that's what brings it to you quickly or otherwise.
You know, I was thinking about this, and I was working with one of my clients, and, you know, I tried to explain it to her. I said, you know what it's like? It's like being 14 years old and asking, when am I going to be 21? When am I going to be 21? Just because you want to be 21 doesn't make you 21 any sooner if you're only 14. Yep. So I do think that as souls, we are all on a path of learning and expansion and development, and there's some work that goes on underneath the surface, like we can't really see it, and there's other stuff that's like visible in the world, and we're just ready when we're ready.
I mean, what I would also say is, so imagine if you were 21, how would you feel? What would it be like? And I don't know if you said it was a girl. So she might say, oh, well, I'd feel more mature. I'd feel like an adult. Okay, well, how does that feel? Try it on. And what else would you feel? And she might say, oh, well, people will treat me a certain way. Okay, so pretend people are treating you a certain way. How does that feel? And I would just say, well, let's forget about 21 and 14. Let's just pretend living that wherever we are. How's that? And go from there. So that's what we do with our goals. In a sense, what you're doing is you're taking on that reality. You're letting go the fact that it's not here yet, because in a sense, you want to fall in love with your life regardless of the physical manifestation of what you're wanting, because we talk about unconditional love, and I think it's really about having unconditional love for where you're at right now, not that you'll be happy one day when you have what you're trying to manifest. So in a sense, what would it be like if you have what you're trying to manifest? And you're kind of creating you bring the two together, basically. You're kind of collapsing two realities, where you are and where you want to be, and you're then actually living right now as if you have what you want. And of course, when you do that, it's like oftentimes when we forget about what we're trying to attract because we don't need it anymore, it shows up, and then we go, oh yes, I've been wanting that all this time, and I completely forgot about it, and here it is. And I wasn't even, and that's what it is. It's like when we're seeking it, oftentimes it's because we're doing it from the element, from the place of lack. That where is it? When's it going to show up? When's he going to show up? When's she going to show up? And so on. And so when we do that, there's an element of lack in our energy, the absence of it. But when we stop thinking about it and we just get into the moment and we just enjoy it, we're no longer pushing against it. We're actually allowing it. And then all of a sudden, when we're not actually even looking for it, it shows up, and we go, wow, where did that come from?
I think it's an incredible statement that you just made, and you said a lot. So, but there's one thing you just said that I love, is that to fall in love with where you're at right now in this moment. And I think that's such an important principle in all of this, is that just to embrace the present moment and to love this present moment that we're in, because when we're in that space, that, to me, I've learned, because it is hard. It's hard. I remember back in my history, my background is, a decade in TV news, and I never really enjoyed any market that I was in because I kept thinking where I was going to work next. Like I was always like, I'm in Florida, I need to go to New York. I'm in Arizona, I need to go here. Like I just was always looking forward. And it's funny because now that I'm not in it, I look back and I think, boy, I don't even remember what I did some of those days, even though I did these incredible things, because I was so busy thinking about where I was going next.
Right.
And, I was younger at the time, but it was a real lesson for me about, just really drinking in the nectar of the present moment and all the good stuff that happens that we miss because we're always projecting or looking backwards.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, what I would say to people is, what if everything you need and require is here, actually here right now? What if it is? Pretend if it is, because sometimes we can overlook stuff. It's like the analogy I often use on my group coaching calls is it's like when you're in the kitchen and you're looking for the salt cellar, it's right there in front of you, and you're kind of just overlooking it. So, what if what you want is actually here? Pretend as it is, because this is the thing. When you pretend something, or when you assume something is, you're adjusting your perceptual filters, you're adjusting your energy and your vibration. So you're actually you're either calling it in, or my view is it's already here. You're just revealing it. For me, there are many people that teach law of attraction. I think oftentimes they teach about attracting or creating. And the way I like to teach it or talk about it is that assume that everything already exists. On an energetic level, it already does. Everything you want already exists. So you're not, in my view, you're not actually creating or attracting it, you're just revealing it. Because oftentimes when people talk about creating or attracting, the implication is that it's not here and you need to attract it in, or you need to create it in. And for me, for some people, the way they think of that, there's an element of absence or lack of what you want, because you still need to create it or attract it because it's not here. And what I do is, although physically it may not be here, but I say to people, well, energetically it already is. Spiritually, it already exists because it's already there on a thought level. You've already thought of it. You've got the desire for it. So let's focus on that. And so assume that it's actually already here, and all you're doing is you're just revealing it into your present physical experience, and that's how you've manifested it. So it's actually, you're just amplifying the manifestation of it from the spiritual to the physical. So there's no element of it's not here. It actually is here. And so you're actually focusing more on the presence of it and nurturing that and building that into your physical now as well.
So that's really powerful, Hemal, because if you think about it, if we already have everything that we need and all we have to do is reveal it or remember it and then connect to it, then how long does it really take to find something that you already have? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes, that's right. It's a whole different mindset to having to create it or attract it, because then you're actually seeking something outside of yourself, where instead you already know it's here and you're just revealing an aspect of yourself. That's all you're doing.
Here on Spirituality Boot Camp, the 7 Principles of Spiritual Practice, and I'm your host, Kristen White, and today we're talking about visualization and how powerful these images that we hold inside our minds and in our hearts, and how those can become our reality very quickly. And my guest today is Hemal Radia, and he's calling us from the UK and joining us. And we were just talking about how when you have this image of something that you want, sometimes when we think it's outside of ourselves, that creates a big delay in bringing it to us. And in fact, everything we need, everything we desire, everything that we even get an inclination around, we already have within our being. We just may not have located it yet.
Absolutely, because oftentimes what happens is that when we think something is outside of ourselves, we're actually focusing on the lack within us. It's oftentimes when someone's looking for a relationship and they think that they're looking for a relationship, and it's like, when I have this relationship, it'll make me happy, or when I have this amount of money, it'll make me happy, or when I have this job, it'll make me happy. So oftentimes what they're doing, they're perceiving the lack within their now. So in a sense, it's like they're looking for something outside of themselves, and really, it's really trying to focus on how the relationship will make them feel. What aspects will it bring out within themselves? And that's often why people don't get to attract the things that they want, because oftentimes they're looking for something that's not here, and they're focusing on how unhappy they are because they're not in a relationship. And so it's really about focusing within on what you do have and what you will have. Just like we were saying before the break, it's like, how would it be if you were 21? The example about the girl that who's 14 and wants to be 21. How will it be when you have what you want? And just starting to nurture that energy in your now, and then that just grows and expands, and you get the physical manifestation. Apologies for that. I wasn't quite sure there was a question, so that's why I paused.
I thought you might have fallen asleep.
Yes, that would be understandable, but we're doing good.
So I already warned you that I would wake you back up. No, I'm just teasing you, of course. I have a fun story. My husband is somebody who doesn't really think of himself as being intuitive. But the other day he was riding his bike, and he got this, I would call it like a divine download. He just got this image that dropped into his mind, and he's like, I think I should apply for a job. He's been a banker for a long time, and he was thinking about going back into it. He's like, I think I should apply for a job. And it's funny, he came home and he told me that he had this image that just dropped into his mind. And I said, well, you know what? I'm curious about that. I'm just going to go online and see what's available right now for this kind of job that you just got a hit on. And if there wasn't a job that had been posted within one day of exactly what he wanted, that dropped into him as a visualization. And so I think that it was an important example of how we do get guidance from the universe, we get intuitive hits, we get visualizations or daydreams that kind of drop in, and how important it is to take action on those thoughts that seem like they come out of nowhere, but they actually come from us.
Yeah, and sometimes what happens is someone may follow up on one of those intuitions, and it may not always exactly be how they think it is. But it's like something may not. It's like someone may feel drawn to looking into a particular profession, or going to a certain place, or going to the supermarket, or whatever it might be, and they may wonder why. But this is the thing: we're trying to logically figure out the intuitive. It doesn't work. So
right.
You're trying to sort of use logic to explain infinite intelligence, and so it may be perfect for you to be at the supermarket, because it may not be, or it may be that when you go to look for that job, you might go to a website for bankers, but it might then give you information about something else, which is actually something else more relevant, or whatever else. So it may be a stepping stone. So it may be the perfect stepping stone for you at this moment to get the information you need for whatever else. So you're going to say something?
Well, I was going to say that's exactly right, because he thought that it was this one opportunity there, and then it led to another phone call with someone somewhere else who then was like, oh, you're perfect for something beyond what you've looked at, and I'm going to refer you to somebody else. So it's already become like a little treasure map and beyond what he ever thought it was going to be. And I think that is such an important point when we're talking about law of attraction and manifesting and visualizing, is put it out there, but then be open to the unlimited possibilities and to trust, because that's the big lesson that I've learned from using these spiritual principles, is that, yes, I do my principles. I create sacred space, I practice gratitude, I practice forgiveness, I do the things that we're talking about, and then I trust and I act.
Yes, I agree. And, in terms of what we're saying here, it's also following the essence of what you're looking for as well, rather than the form. So, for example, if your husband was drawn to looking into something regarding banking, if there's a part of him that said, "Oh no, this doesn't feel right," etc., or it's really if it felt right, if he felt that's the inspiration he got, then follow it and let it. Because sometimes we focus so much on the form that we don't allow the essence or the energy of the essence to continue to flow. It's like someone saying, "Well, I want to marry a guy who's like this, and that, but he's got to have blue eyes." But then a guy shows up with brown eyes, and she completely discards it. But when she actually would have met him, she would have actually discovered that he's actually everything she's looking for, and the eyes didn't matter anyway. It's just that she's got this particular concept. Her mind the conscious mind, or you could say the ego, has a certain template, and whereas she could still probably attract someone with blue eyes, but in a sense the universe may have brought her what she wants far quicker, and just because she thinks it has to have a certain wrapping paper, she may not actually accept the parcel that she's been given.
Isn't that so true, though? I mean, isn't that so true that we are so programmed as a society that we want it how we want it? And we get really narrow in our focus. I call it using the monocle. You remember the ships that would go and they have the long telescope you'd look out at with one eye, and it's very limited in its vision. And that, if you actually had a higher perspective or a broader viewpoint, you would see how it all works together instead of us always trying to manage. We're always micromanaging.
Yeah. From the ego or the thought or rather than allowing our essence to flow and following our intuition, our impulses. What you were saying a moment ago about taking action as well, because it's like assume that you're aligned to what you want, and what you want is ready to come into your life. What is it that you feel drawn to experiencing right now? It could be certain actions you feel drawn to taking, and oftentimes what happens, we tend to second guess ourselves, or we doubt ourselves, or we may say things like, oh well, I'm not good enough, or it's not going to happen for me anyway. And so what happens is, whilst the inspiration is actually coming through you, you're actually short-circuiting it with your self-talk and your language. So, it's like the universe is giving you the information you need to do what you need to do, but there's a part of you that's going, well, it won't work out for me anyway, and so on and so on. So you're actually, through that noise, you're actually not actually knowing what the universe is telling you, because you've got all that noise blocking it out, and so you're actually not following up on what you need to follow up on. So, and like we were saying earlier, pretend, assume you're ready, assume the universe is on your side, take a guess, just start somewhere, get the ball rolling, and then as things start to move, you start to get a momentum, you start to build confidence, and then the messages get louder and clearer, and you're actually more receptive to them because you're not hearing the other noise as well.
I really love that thought, is that, a lot of life and being present is just to get into the place where you want to be. Kind of like that. I mean, here in the U.S. we call it, fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of put yourself in that position as if it's already happening. And, I've used this many times inside my life, and I always seem to, the universe eventually gets the memo. Everybody else gets the memo of where I've seen myself. I remember when I even first started doing, this radio many, many years ago, before, I connected with VividLife, I just had an idea. I was like, oh, I'll just start it at my kitchen table, and then one thing led to another, and, it mushroom clouded. And I think that, we always just need to start, but have the visualization of the end point as if it's already there. I met a quantum physicist once, and he talked about, maybe he was on the show, I can't remember who it was, but he talked about that at any given point we have a multitude of realities that we can connect to. Some are close and some are further away. And this is actually like scientific fact. And that all we need to do is energetically connect to the frequency of whichever one of those multidimensional realities we want, and assume it's so, and then everything in between orchestrates itself.
That's exactly what we've been saying. Exactly. Yeah. So it's really assume everything is a probability. Everything that you want has a probability to it, and it's really a matter of which probabilities do you want to amplify by your attention, or more so your energy, to them. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it that way, it's really simple. Like, why can't we get that?
And it's really about, whatever we focus on, we're amplifying. Even like when we say things to ourselves like, oh, I'd love that car, oh, but it won't, I won't get it, I can't afford it, or I don't earn enough. And of course, that's what you're amplifying, the fact that you don't earn enough or whatever else. And of course, that's what then stays in your reality. Oftentimes, that's why people don't get to attract the things they want, because oftentimes when they think of what they want, they have they may say a sentence to themselves like, oh, I'll be so happy when I meet the man or the woman of my dreams, etc. But then they'll have a following sentence like, oh, but all men or women are like this, or I won't find someone that makes me happy, and so they contradict what they're trying to attract. So it's oftentimes the hidden sort of second sentence that you have, which actually mixes up your energy. So it's really being conscious of that and being pure about your thoughts. And when I say pure, in terms of keep them about what you want, don't let other stuff sort of come into it. Just enjoy it, and don't let the universe surprise you pleasantly. So you focus on your energy and on the good stuff, and not the doubts or the fears. Let the universe surprise you, and let it create new realities. But just just focus, enjoy the journey of the working with the energy, and obviously we're talking about visualization, so enjoy the process of the visualization, enjoy the energy work, and let the universe handle the physical manifestation. Too often we kind of get caught up in when will it come, how will it come, where will it come from, etc. And that's our mind thinking into it a lot. And again, that's just adding anxiety to your energy. But instead, enjoy the process. It's like enjoy the journey, enjoy the process of what you're doing, and let the end result take care of itself. And of course, thinking about the end result can be part of the process. Like you were saying, think of the end, visualize it, etc., etc. That can be part of the process. But enjoy it, and that also allows us to sort of lightly relax into it as well, rather than sort of clinging on to it very tightly and being very attached to it, and in a sense letting our energy flow and attract it more easily.
I call what you're talking about, I'm so loving our conversation, I call it the angelic dating service.
Okay.
So the angelic dating service is like, and it's not necessarily to meet another person like you would think. It's just to meet whatever is out there. So it's like the universe has a sense of what we wish for or what we'd like to see happen in our lives. And then I just trust that I'll be connected to that in any way. And I find that it happens over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's, a house. It doesn't matter if it's a speaking opportunity. It doesn't matter if it's a guest. It just doesn't matter. And what I have found is that because I now operate from this assumption that, it's just I'm just going to meet it like as if it was a blind date, that oftentimes what I'm looking for, no sooner do I have the thought than the phone rings or a client comes in and they're exactly what I just had a thought. Like the manifestation, the time between the manifestation is very, very short.
Yeah. That's a beautiful, what you just said is just so beautiful in so many ways. Energetically as well, we were saying earlier about trusting and assuming. Oftentimes people assume kind of the opposite, like, oh, it'll never work out for me, or why does this keep happening to me? Whereas what you've said is actually like, well, things do work out for me, and in fact things will work out very quickly for me, and oftentimes they happen very quickly, right away when I need them, or in fact the universe has a solution for me before I've even had the problem, sort of thing. And so like the universe is on standby to deliver. Or if you're someone who believes in angels or spirits or whatever, it's like my angels are ready to deliver, or whatever it is. But and in a sense, notice what it's building in someone's energy. It's about a sense of trust, it's a sense of knowingness that everything is okay, everything will be okay. There are no problems because everything actually is okay, and my angels have already delivered the solution, and I will. And even if it's something I don't consciously comprehend, it's okay because my angels will take care of it. So there's a sense of ease, a feeling of trust and allowing, and hence the universe corresponds with that.
Recently, Hemal, I was watching this movie, and there's a great line in the movie, and it said, everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. And I thought, I love that line because I have learned through, just life, and I have 4 kids, and, I'm married my second time, so, I haven't lived this perfect, flawless thing. But I have learned that oftentimes things need to fall apart before they can come together, just like the energy of the wave. We go through periods where things look totally formed and beautiful, and other times they look like chaos, but that both things are necessary. It's necessary to hold steady in both places. And that's been a valuable lesson for me. So I always kind of visualize when it's going to go back to the form, even though sometimes when it's chaotic, we can forget that there ever was any form,
Yeah, and maybe when it's chaos, it's actually the perfect thing for you to experience at that moment in time because it's shaping and molding you for what's about to come.
Right, exactly, exactly. So we are actually going to take our next break, but I wanted you to take a moment and just tell all of our listeners, how can they find you and work with you privately?
Okay, so we were talking earlier, and I said the easiest way for people to find me is if they go to my webpage, which is at hemalradia.com. That's www.hemalradia, that's HEMALRADIA.com, and you'll find all sorts of resources, downloads, links there. You'll get links to pages on Facebook, on Twitter, my blog, which is at manifestingandlawofattraction.com. The link will be there. I do a group call where people can send in questions, and they can ask me questions every week. We've got a private Facebook group where you can connect with others, but certainly you can be on live calls every week and ask me questions, or if you can't attend live, you can download the audio. We have a lot of people that attendees, and many that enjoy just the download afterwards. So they'll send in their questions, and the next day they'll download the answers to their questions, and really enjoy it. So we've been running that since early last year, and that's very popular. So if you go to hemalradia.com, you can find out all about that, including working one-to-one with me as well, if you'd like to. But a whole load of stuff, free stuff, the group stuff, one-to-one, it's all there. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I know that you are actually going to be later on this year in Australia, up in the Queensland area, for your first visit there, and it's absolutely incredible. So if you're listening from Australia, we would love for you to connect with Hemal as well. So we'll have some information on the VividLife University site with your URL and all of that. How challenging it can be sometimes to actually take a spiritual practice or a principle and just to get started. You know, sometimes these thoughts can be so abstract, or these concepts, and it's like, well, what do I do for myself right now in this moment? So Hemal, what is something that, let's say we have listeners out there who are like, I can't visualize, my mind is so noisy. You know, how can we just even start to quiet the mind with a visualization just to get started to really then begin to see what we want to bring in?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if we're having a lot of noise, maybe just ask yourself what the noise is about. And oftentimes it's fears or anxieties. So it's really soothing those. And of course, then we head towards more of what we want and more away from what we don't want. But we're also just, and during the break, I was also saying as we were talking that, see, with a lot of spiritual methods or principles, etc., people find it sometimes a bit of a challenge because it can be quite abstract. So in a sense, let's get specific and practical here. I mean, let me also say this, that we talk about the spiritual, but in a sense, we're talking about spiritual solutions to everyday sort of physical problems, so to speak.
Right.
And
yeah.
So what I'd say really is that realize, though, that you're not actually physical and you're not spiritual. Actually, you're both. So it's really, I mean, when I talk about manifesting in the way I teach it, it's really about blending the two together. It's like, you came into this physical life for a reason. You're not just, you're not here just for the sake of it. So you are actually a spiritual being living a physical experience. You're a blend of the two. So when I teach manifesting, it's about flowing your spiritual energy or your non-physical energy or whatever you want to call it through the physical vessel that is you. So, and that's how I define the sort of manifesting, where you're actually blending and working with the two together, hand in hand. So realize that if you're having physical problems, realize that you never stop being divine or you never stop being spiritual. You always have been. It's just at times you disconnected your flow a little bit because of your anxieties, your fears, etc. So identify what it is, what's the noise, because we create a lot of stuff. What's the noise about? Is it really that bad? Because at the end of the day, we go through lots of things in life, and in time we always realize that the thing that we feared or thought was the worst thing actually never was, and it never worked out as bad as we thought it would, and even if it did, we got over it and we moved on. So I think that oftentimes helps us soothe the things that we're scared about, because oftentimes the reason we're scared about something is because we haven't thought of us getting through it. And at times, if you have to face something, you will get through it, and you always have. That's why you're here. So realize that no matter how bad it seems, you will get through it. One way or the other, you will get through it. It's either going to be dragging your nails through it, or another way. Your choice is how you get yourself through it, but you will get through it, and you always have gone through it. So it's just really soothing yourself in terms of where you're at. So in a sense, that's often what stops us tuning into our flow, our intuition, our inspiration, because we have so much noise, we have so much fear. Sometimes we paralyze ourselves. So it's really about soothing that. What is that about? And having a conversation with yourself about that. Once you quieten that, you're then more into your flow, and hence you can. When someone tries to visualize something, if they're having a lot of internal noise, their energy is mixed, basically. So, and so it's almost like trying to press the accelerator while having the brakes on. So in a sense, you're letting go of the resistance and the fears and the anxieties, so that you can get yourself into your flow more easily. And then you can visualize more of how you want things to be. Start to daydream in a nice way, like we were saying earlier. Enjoy the process, enjoy the flowing of the energy, and then let the manifestations go from there.
I have a couple visualizations that I have enjoyed using, and some of them are quite simple. Like one of them, this is one of the earlier ones that I used to use, and I would imagine in a meditative state, but you could just close your eyes and do this imagery. I would imagine that I'm walking into a room, and I just take note of what the room looks like. Okay, so are the windows open or closed? Are there draperies over the window? Is the room light or dark? Is there a lot of clutter in it, or is it empty? And this would kind of help me. We were talking about using symbols earlier. It would help me gauge what was going on in my life. You know, if the room was really crowded, I knew that there was a lot going on, like I was overburdened. If the furniture was really old, I knew that I was, you know, experiencing a lot of things from the past. If the windows were closed, I knew that I wasn't seeing things in the full light. You know, I kind of set up a structure, so I would go in and I would kind of just take like a little check, you know, inside the room. And then what I would do is kind of using, you know, the power of visualization, and I call it like visual magic. You know, if I wanted to dissolve something, I would just touch, you know, a piece of furniture that was in the room and it would dissolve. Or I would pull open the draperies, or I would open the window. I would let the light in. I'd paint the room a bright color, and I would symbolically clean out my psyche using this visualization tool, even though I had no idea what the chair would represent or what the words represented. I just used it as like a tool to clean out the clutter in my energetic being.
This is fascinating, because what you're talking about here and the process you just talked about is actually something that I've kind of been playing with a lot more as well in recent times. I've been working a lot more with my own intuition, etc., and even symbology. So, you know, there are different ways people are intuitive or psychic, and one way is through symbology. So people, just like you said, someone will symbolically represent something. They could look in their room, or they may have an internal image, and then they'll decode it, just like someone may decode some tarot cards or interpret them, basically. So in a sense, we're doing that with internal imagery, and again, we're talking about visualization. So and then I thought, well, how can I use this for manifesting and applying the law of attraction? So I actually came up with something very similar to what you described there, which is I would say, okay, well, think about a particular context and what internal imagery do I get? And oftentimes it could be symbolic. It doesn't have to be precise. So let's say I imagine a field with dark clouds, for example. So okay, so maybe it's a certain context, and I may not need to know consciously which context it is, but if I imagine the field with dark clouds, so maybe there's, you know, just something which is looking a little bit grim at that time. So then I'll work with myself in shifting the imagery to something more pleasant. So perhaps I notice the wind comes by and the dark clouds move on, and suddenly the sun comes out, and suddenly I'm hearing birds in the trees, and it's changing so then what I'm doing is I'm changing the imagery to how I'd like it to be, and I'm keeping it that way. And so in a sense, I'm getting used to it being with the birds in the trees and the sun shining down and so on and so on. And that's then, in a sense, I maybe focus on that a little bit longer, so that stays, and that's my lasting impression of it, and I just reinforce that. So in a sense, it's creating internal change using symbology, just like you were describing. So that's kind of something I've been playing with similarly as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting, because my intuition, all my intuitive channels opened up as a result of spiritual practice. So I am an open channel intuitive, but the spiritual symbols that I see pull from my own dictionary. So it's interesting, like, you know, I've read some books like about, you know, Carl Jung, you know, man and his symbols, and about mythology, and just whatever I'm interested in. Okay, so when I see a symbol, like if someone comes in to do a session with me, and I've done thousands of sessions, I just see the symbols. And then I already know what my dictionary is, because I've created it over time. Yep. And then I just go and refer to that. I say, oh, well, when I see this, it means this or this. And then I just kind of interpret it.
Yeah. I mean, I know various intuitives, they do the same. They over time, you build your own internal dictionary. That's exactly it. Right at the start of the call, we talked about symbology, and I said, you know, everyone, I was saying to the listeners, you know, you have your own internal way of representing things. So find that, and that's what we're talking about. You're identifying your own internal dictionary, and you're getting used to it and familiar with it, basically. Yeah.
And there are these wonderful universal symbols. So, like, if you, let's say you're having a lot of challenges in your emotions, and you want to take a check, you can just visualize you are standing at the edge of a body of water. It can be an ocean, it can be a lake, it could be a pond, it can be a stream. You look at the water. Is the water clear or dirty? Is it turbulent? Is it smooth? And just kind of look at the quality, and that will tell you immediately through that visualization exercise where you're at. And there's all kinds of things like that you can use in, like, just visualization tools for like a quick check-in of, you know, how things are going.
Yeah, and sometimes like you may be an internal emotion you've got or a feeling, and oftentimes you may not be feeling very good. So you could just say, well, what is this? I mean, if you want to turn it into a visual, you could say, okay, this feeling I have, what does it look like? What's the representation of it? Is it like by a swamp, for example, or is it dark water, or what is it? So just naturally, in a sense, assume the imagery is there. Sometimes we can be a little absorbed by our, let's say, feelings and emotions, and so we're not conscious of the visual side of things or maybe the auditory side of things. So it's just allowing that to reveal itself and just noticing it's there, because sometimes we can be a little absorbed by situations we may be in. But it's like just calming yourself and just noticing what it represents, then working with because oftentimes it can be easier to work with the visual than it can with the kinesthetic, because the kinesthetic has emotions, and emotions can be a little, if we're not in a great place, can be a little bit sticky. I mean, they can be worked on as well. It's different for different people, but sometimes the visual can be quicker and easier because there's less emotion wrapped up usually, oftentimes.
Hemal, it's so funny too, because I was thinking about this. It's like we talked at the beginning of the show about how some people are not as visual. They can't, their imagination doesn't do pictures. Maybe they feel something or will hear something. But I will tell you, I know that the universe definitely has a sense of humor. Okay, and I can tell you that I have been out and had something happen, and all of a sudden I look up and the car in front of me will have like the Om bumper sticker or something, and I'm just like, all right, okay, I get it, and it like diffuses it. And so what I'm saying is if you cannot visualize inside your imagination, you will get a visual message outside. I mean, you will literally see a billboard, hear a song, see a bumper sticker, get a phone call, that if you are open to allowing that divine sense of humor, the universe has a sense of humor, that it will stop you right in the middle of any kind of energetic temper tantrum you might be having. Say, P.S., everything's still fine.
This reminds me of something specific. Someone I know, actually, about a month or two ago, she was driving in her car and she was wondering whether he loved her or not. So she looked in front, and the car in front had the license plate, "Love you." and then I think the next car, she was meant to be seeing him on a certain date, and so she wasn't sure. So I think the next car had a certain date, which is the exact date that she was thinking of seeing him. So this is like in quick succession. So she actually took these photos and sent them to me to sort of say, look what's happening.
Well, I think that is true, that the non-physical world, the energetic realm, uses symbols, signs, songs, messages, bumper plates, driver's license plates, things to speak to us. So if we can be present, like what you talked about, and to pay attention and say, this message is for me. I'm claiming this message for me, that it will show us visually, like literally visually in front of us, that we're heading in that right direction.
Yeah, exactly. And my view is it also communicates internally and externally, but when we have those external ones, we tend to be a little bit more convinced by them, because sometimes we don't trust whether something is coming up internally, whether it's our fears or whatever, and that's how someone becomes a very, very good intuitive, when they actually know what messages internally are not from their fears and their hopes, and are actually more concrete, shall we say. So I feel it can communicate in both ways, but we tend to be we tend to believe more the outside, because it tends to really must be real if it's happening out there, sort of thing.
Right, exactly. It's so funny. My friends are always laughing. They're like, how can it be that it is like, Christmas and you end up parking in that first slot, like right in front of the department store? You know what I mean? Like, I know that I have people who've been on my show before who would cringe if I'm talking about manifesting a parking spot, but for me, it's always a sign, I must be in the flow this week, because I'm getting my, angelic parking. And that, sometimes it's just little subtle things that will kind of show you, even though there's no evidence to the fact that you're still on the right path, by, these little messages like love you, or, just it can be anything. And we're actually almost running out of time, so I don't want to miss the opportunity for you to tell all of our listeners, and I know we have thousands of listeners for our show here tonight, how can people register for your wonderful advanced class? So I know you have generously offered to teach an advanced class exclusively through VividLife University, where you'll be working with people personally. Tell us just a little bit about, what you're going to be working with everyone on.
Sure. So we'll be spending, I think it's 4 weeks. We'll be going into more detail about what we talked about today. So you can ask questions about this. You can ask about my own experiences with this. We'll be talking, although it'll be about visualization, but we'll talk, just like today, we'll be talking more about manifesting, more about energy, vibration. So really, we'll go deeper into what we've talked about today. We'll have more examples. People can send in their own questions as well. We can interact. So we can go a lot more deeper in detail about some of the things we've talked about. If you want to talk about symbology, doing processes with symbology, we can talk about that as well, so if people want to ask about that. So essentially, we've kind of covered a broad spectrum of things, and of course, it does tie in with manifesting, with law of attraction, to aligning your energy, dealing with clearing out the noise so that you can more effectively visualize or get a sense of the internal side of things. So that's what we'll do. We'll go a lot more deeper and more detailed into that, and of course, people can be more interactive and ask their questions as well.
You know, and Hemal, we were talking about what I believe is how important the practice of visualization is, and how it's directly linked, I believe, to manifesting and our prosperity. It's like they say it, seeing is believing, and if you envision it, I mean, there's references in so many spiritual texts that when you can perceive something, that it becomes your reality. So I cannot stress enough to all of you listening, if you can get this one thing down, I use it all the time in my life. It has probably been, the biggest turning point of just making my life feel really magical and kind of fun. Like, I'll visualize stuff sometimes and I'll think, wow, that is hysterical. Mm-hmm. Just the way that it comes in. It starts to make your life much more of an adventure and really actually delightful.
Yeah, and how to have fun with visualization as well, because that's really what it's about. Sometimes when people are trying to attract things, they try and make it a chore, and it becomes hard work. And of course, if you're making it hard work, that's where your energy is. It's hard work. So it's keeping it light and loose, and making visualization fun and creative, and it's ready to get you into your flow, not to get you out of your flow.
Yeah, who wants to work harder? I think that when I visualize that things come, easily and effortlessly. And to me, actually, I have learned if things are extremely challenging, if there's a lot of blocks, maybe I should just take a break and go back to visualizing, what it is I want to attract, and maybe I'm pushing. And, if I ever feel like I'm pushing, I really learned to stop and pause for a moment, not give up, but just to pause. Maybe there's an easier way, and it hasn't been revealed to me yet.
I mean, they say that imagination is more powerful than willpower, so visualization is already a tool to unlocking your imagination. It's really tapping into that place more. So if you change your reality, then life becomes very easy, and visualization is a tool to changing your reality and how you perceive reality.
Exactly. So Hemal, Radia, thank you so much for being here. And again, tell us your website one more time so that people can check you out.
Yep, it's www.hemalradia.com. That's www.hemalradia.com. Thank you.
Hemal, thank you so much. I know it's now 2 a.m. in the UK, and you have been energized and delightful, and I loved our conversation, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kristen. It's been great fun. Thank you for sharing your examples and stories. It's been great fun to bounce all these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to all of you, we've really enjoyed having you here on Spirituality Bootcamp. Next week, we will have our guest, Ed and Deb Shapiro. We'll be talking about meditation. And until then, again, thank you so much, and we will catch you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.
Visualization, but also manifesting and prosperity and energy. So we're going to go into some of the really fun, juicy stuff. But let's start just for a minute with visualization. What is visualization?
It's really interesting because I guess the implication of the word is it's visual, and what I would say is it doesn't necessarily have to be visual, because oftentimes some people will say, oh, but I can't see pictures, or I can't visualize something, and I'll say, well, it's okay, because if we're talking about manifesting and law of attraction and, like we said just now, prosperity, my view is it's really about getting a sense of something. So visualization is really a tool to adjusting your energy or your vibration, rather than the be-all and the end-all. So don't worry if you can't see specific pictures, so don't worry about that. Sometimes some people are more auditory, some people are more kinesthetic, so it's okay. It's more getting a sense. Generally, I would say, when you're wanting to manifest something like prosperity, it's the feeling that you get about it. So visualization is just a tool, just like affirmation, just like vision boards, whatever else. It's another tool to adjusting your energy and your vibration, and the way you know that is by how you feel. So what is visualization? It's really, shall we say, a process or a tool to adjust your energy. It's about, I would say, it's about a way of getting a sense of what you want to attract into your life. So if it's prosperity, you can see yourself with prosperity. How does it feel to see yourself with that prosperity? And if we're saying that it doesn't have to be visual, it could be something that's
Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Get ready to expand your intuition, connect to God, experience deeper relationships, open your heart and feel more joy, and finally end the chaos in your life. Are you ready to get unstuck and more? You ask, how do I do it? The answer is simple. The time has come for peak spiritual fitness. It starts right now on Spirituality Bootcamp with your host, Kristen White.
Welcome everyone, and we're back for week 5 of Spirituality Bootcamp, and I'm your host, Kristen White, and we created this series here on VividLife Radio as part of our launch for the VividLife University. That's right, the founder of VividLife, Shane Travis, and myself, Kristen White, put our heads together, and we thought, you know what, there has to be a way where we can take these incredible thought leaders, these transformational inspirational forces, these people that come on to Vivid Life on a regular basis, and take it one step further, where we can actually work with you directly and teach you step by step how to manifest and create transformation and move into that greater realm of possibility in your life. And so that's why we created Vivid Life University, and we're launching it this summer, and this is our first series. It's called Spirituality Bootcamp, the 7 Principles of Spiritual Practice. And whether you've been with us since the beginning or you're just now joining us, I am so excited because I know that you are going to feel the energy, feel the force of possibility that comes from just basic practice, basic spiritual practice. So today, my guest is joining us from UK, and he's been up late watching the Olympics. Actually, I'm just kidding about that, but he's joining us. It is 1 o'clock in the morning there, and it's Hemal Radia, and he is going to give us such a treat today. He is the author of Find You and Find Everything, The Secrets of the Law of Attraction. And Hemal is also a world-renowned expert on manifesting and the law of attraction, and he's been described as a super coach. Okay, I'm so excited to have a super coach on the show with us. And he's going to be coaching you directly on the topic of visualization. So, Hemal, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. It's great to be here.
I know. I'm so glad you're here. And you know what? We're on the principle of visualization, but you and I talked before the show even started, and we said, let's talk about not just
we say symbology, but if you think about it, even language is symbology. It's just what we define as symbology.
Right.
So, but symbology is powerful in the sense that oftentimes it bypasses certain conscious blocks we may have, because it's more instinctive, it's more maybe primal, but more instinctive in the sense that it's working on an experiential level than, let's say someone said they want to attract $10,000 by the end of the week, for example, whereas if they work with the symbology, that may be a useful way for them to warm up around the issue of prosperity, it stops certain blocks coming up. Like if we said to them to attract $10,000 by the end of the week, they may have certain beliefs or blocks that may come up about it, like how will I do that, or how will I attract that amount of money, etc., etc. But with symbology, because it's quite abstract, sometimes we bypass certain blocks that we have. So symbology is a great way to start something and then working with the symbology. And that's oftentimes the brain communicates, or the universe communicates to us through symbology, and vice versa as well. So it can be useful in that respect as well.
So what are some of your favorite symbols when you're teaching visualization and imagery to, I know you have thousands of students around the globe. Is there any kind of, I'm not trying to put you on the spot because I know it's late, but is there a little visualization exercise that maybe you could even take us through right now?
Staying up at 1 a.m. doing a radio show around the world is a sign of prosperity. That's a auditory experience for you. But generally, you'll get a feeling. Basically, it'll start to feel very real. You might start to feel excited. You might start to feel tingly. So I would say follow that, and then just make the visual images or whatever sense that you get as a stimulus for that.
Hemal, I know inside my meditation, I love to use visualization, and I especially like using symbols, because I think that the universe really recognizes symbols, and it's almost like it sends out a message beyond our structure of our mind, and so oftentimes when I was visualizing prosperity, I would start with like a visualization where I would see, my body filling with light, like magnetic energy. And then I would see that light going out to the universe, and then I would see it bringing back, abundance in the form of a symbol. It could be like, gold or diamonds or just anything that energetically represented prosperity, but not necessarily something specific, because what I found for myself was that whatever I thought I wanted, it was too small. There was always something that was bigger available. And that the symbols helped have the realm of expansiveness larger.
Yeah. Also, when using symbology, it's very useful, because oftentimes,